Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Dorsey, President and CEO of Disciples Home Missions. I'm here with Brian Frederick-Gray, Director of Justice and Advocacy Ministries. And we are here for another episode of the Disciples Advocate Digest. Brian, if you couldn't tell, I'm not in my normal place. We just left Black Ministers Retreat in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which was an awesome gathering of the African American clergy in our denomination. And on my way home, I had to stop here in the Big Apple in New York for a couple of meetings. So sorry for having to do this digest on the fly. So what's our first story? What are we looking at?
Yeah, we've got three topics in the hopper today, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the continued negotiations that are happening with DHS around the budget and around those
Right.
legal rails.
Yeah. So as I understand it, as of February 13th, the Department of Homeland Ministry or Homeland Security has basically been shut down. Congress and the White House have failed to come to an agreement on funding for DHS, and it is having devastating consequences on travel.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that the disagreement is over the funding for ICE and CBP. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and particularly putting some guardrails on what ICE and CBP are doing with that funding that they get. And so we're specifically talking about prohibiting immigration actions at sensitive locations. This includes churches. This is about ending family detention. This is about putting in basic standards of care at immigration detention centers. And it's about stopping any of those operations that are currently targeting refugees who are already in the United States.
Yeah, it's basic common sense. We want to have our law enforcement and federal agents respecting the law, respecting people's dignity, respecting people's rights, and not
Yes.
just running roughshod over the Constitution. Brian, I know one of the things that we're struggling with is the fact that even though transportation like TSA and all of the things that help people get through airport is suffering, the funding for ICE and Border Patrol is continuing because of the money that they got guaranteed as a result of the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, that's right, which makes these negotiations even more important because it isn't just about funding. The funding already exists there. It's about being able to put these kinds of restrictions on the ways that they're using that funding.
Yeah. So, what can people do? What are some of the resources that we have that people can engage?
Yeah, I want to really shout out our partners at Church World Service today. You're going to hear that name a lot in today's digest. Church World Service has put together an action alert for us that's called Tell Congress to Stop Lawless Immigration Enforcement. It's actually a little bit longer than that. And this lets you send an email directly to your elected representatives. There's also a script in there for phone calls that you could use, as well as social media post suggested language. We're going to ask that you do us a favor, though, and don't just post it on social media and then think that you've done all that you could do. We hope that you really will take the time, send that email, make those phone calls, use that script in ways that can enable other people to find out about this action and to be able to take action around it.
Great. Sounds very important, and we hope that people will get involved. What's our second topic, Brian?
Second one, we want to tell everybody about Ecumenical Advocacy Days. That's going to be happening in Washington, D.C., starting up on April 20th through the 22nd. And this year's theme is protecting people, peace, and planet.
Okay, wait, Brian. I think that people might need to know what Ecumenical Advocacy Days is.
Yep,
Tell us a little
yep.
bit
Let
about
me,
the background.
let me get out of the insider language here for a second, friends, and tell you about it. Ecumenical Advocacy Day started up in 2003, and it is filled with times for worship, times for workshops, so you can learn more about the issues that are important to us, and then organized congressional visits so that you can go and meet with your elected representatives. It is a wonderful time to be with other Christians and advocates for justice issues, and this great reminder that you're not alone in this work. None of us can do this alone.
Yeah, it's very something that DHM and the disciples as a whole have really supported. And if you never had a chance to meet with your elected representatives, EAD is a wonderful place to start. One of the plenary sessions is a lobby day training to give you everything you need to know about how to meet with different staffers or representatives from your office. And you'll also be going into these meetings as part of a coalition. So you're not going by yourself, you're going with others who have the same goals and ambitions.
Yeah. And if you can't make it to Ecumenical Advocacy Days this year, but want to support other folks in being able to be there, EAD has a young adults scholarship fund that you can contribute to. Chris, you and I were at the most recent Ecumenical Advocacy Days when Disciples young adult Daniel Mitchell was there and kind of stole the show because folks wanted to be able to talk directly to a young adult. What is it that you are seeing? What is it that you are hearing? What is it that you are hoping for this world, so that we can help to bring some of that into our advocacy, into our stories, into our work?
Sounds good. So you can either participate yourself directly, or you can help fund and support other young adults going. Let's go support Ecumenical Advocacy Days. What's our last story, Brian?
For the last story today, we are talking about the indefinite refugee ban and a most recent update in the court case surrounding it. So, one of the administration's very first executive orders suspended the U.S. refugee admissions program in its entirety and froze all of the funding for it. There have been all sorts of lawsuits that have been happening, the biggest one of which is Pacito versus Trump. And the Ninth Circuit panel just this last week finally released a decision that honestly maintained most of the status quo, which is helping to keep the administration's indefinite ban and that funding freeze in place.
Now, I happen to be on the board of Church World Service, and I know they were a major plaintiff in this case, or they've signed on to it. So there is some good news, right? There was a little bit of good news in it, even though overwhelmingly it's negative. But it basically affirmed that the administration must continue providing funding for domestic resettlement services to refugees who are already in the U.S. So that support is supposed to continue even as the refugee resettlement has come to a halt.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that it's really really unfortunate, and the devastating effects of all of this, both at home and abroad. It's just really really tragic. I've had a chance to visit some of these settlements and refugee camps in East Africa, and it basically means that hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, are now trapped in these systems and have nowhere to go. Agencies have been shut down. Employees have been furloughed with very little pay offered to them, and it's just really devastating. So what can people do in this time, Brian?
Yeah, let's give them two things that they can plug into. Number one, friends, if there is a refugee resettlement office in your community, please reach out and ask them directly, how can I volunteer to help? And if you don't know how to do that, it could be as simple as a Google search with the words refugee resettlement office near me. I did it in my computer right before our call. It works. Because so many of the staff have been furloughed in those places, but they're still trying to provide services for the refugees that are there in your community. They need as much help as they could get, as many volunteer hours. This is an opportunity for churches to really plug in your local community in a way that's going to make a difference, literally changing lives for folks. Second thing that you can do is you can tell the stories of directly impacted refugees. Again, our friends at Church World Service have put together this wonderful resource. It's a heartbreaking resource, but it's an important resource because they're stories of impact. These are direct stories, frequently just a couple of sentences long, from refugees who have been harmed by this refugee ban. So much of the language has become so toxic and so weaponized when it comes to immigration and when it comes to refugees. And being able to share these stories humanizes those folks, and it helps to motivate us to take on the work, and hopefully will
Yeah.
help to motivate others. Preachers, they also work as great sermon illustrations as well.
Great, great. Thank you, Brian, for sharing those resources. And just again, I just want to lift up our friends at Church World Service and all the good work that they're doing to keep this site going.
And so, friends, all of the links that we have been talking about in this video are down in the right below the video. You can find those, you can click through, you can use those resources and put them to work as we are seeking to be some of the difference that we see in the world.
All right, that's it for this episode of Disciples Advocate Digest. Hopefully, I will eventually make my way home back to Indianapolis. But until next time, keep advocating and keep fighting.
Amen. Blessings and peace, friends. Thanks.